Hello and welcome to episode 32 of The Grocery Guru. We are here with that guru, that is Andrew Grant. Andrew, how are you?
Morning, Darren. Yes, very well. Enjoying this lovely weather we're having.
We are having lovely weather. So, now, lovely weather, moving on to regulatory stuff. There's a lot going on in the media right now, the Grocer and others, and I think you're going to tell us all about it.
Yeah, no, we always try to keep up with what's happening out there in grocery world. And this week it is quite interesting. You feel sorry for the politicians sometimes, or maybe you shouldn't. But they go from hero to zero in the flick of a a finger. I think with this government, it's been the other way around. They go from zero being blamed for the whole pandemic. Even though I don't think it was quite their fault, to now suddenly being heroes because of the success of the vaccine rollout. And the flip of that is the grocers, as we've been reporting for the last 30 odd episodes. I mean, they really pulled out every stop during the pandemic. They kept the nation fed, they kept us safe, they've spent gazillions on, repurposing their stores, etc. And what happens the minute we're now seeing light at the end of the tunnel of the pandemic? Morrison shareholders vetoed David Potts's bonus. I'm sure a very well-earned bonus. But yesterday, 70% of the shareholders vetoed his bonus for all the hard work that they praised him for during the pandemic. Ouch. And then the Grocery Code Adjudicator, Mark Davis, the new kid on the block.
Mark White.
Mark White. Yes, Mark White. Where did Mark Davis come from? Mark White. He published his annual supplier survey.
Yeah.
Praising Sainsburys for topping Aldi to the top of the tree. So ever since the survey's been done, Aldi have been top of the tree. Sainsbury's number one this year, 97% compliance, wow, according to suppliers, with the code. So well done, Sainsbury's.
That's very, very good to top Aldi. As you say, they've been top of the tree for a very long time. I sense a but coming.
I was just going to say but. Mark is now, with the same breath, almost the same press release, announces he's concerned about Sainsbury's range reset, having heard from a number of suppliers about allegedly non-code compliant practices. Yes. Sainsbury's are doing a range reset. Most of the retailers have post-pandemic because, as we've been talking about, shopping habits have changed.
Yes, of course they have. Yeah.
But he's been approached by a number of Sainsbury's suppliers, alleging that Sainsbury's are giving very short notice of delists. And I can't quite believe this number, but it's in the press, it's black and white, asking for up to 20% of a supplier's sales turnover as a range reset or business fee.
And I read that too, 20%. So if you are a £5 million supplier in sales, you need to hand over £1 million as a lump sum to keep your business.
Well, it's more than that. If you think of some of Sainsbury's biggest branded suppliers, and you can name us as well as me, they will have £100 million businesses. Are they really going to hand over 20 million quid? I don't think so.
They're not. They don't make the profit of 20 million quid on it. So that's an odd one. And I'm not quite sure whether that's based in a single small supplier. I suspect it is. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you can remember back to our day. I mean, in a industry where the margins are sub 5%, you're lucky to get 1 or 2%. And then you think you've been very successful or been pushing it. So, I find that 20 very, very strange.
I do. So what do you think will happen over the next coming weeks in terms of Mark and Sainsbury's and suppliers? Can you predict, guess?
Well, obviously, I mean, now Mark has gone public saying he has a concern. I imagine the floodgates will open. And you can imagine the poor old buyers in Holborn sort of, hunkering down, going through every single email they've sent in the last 6 months, and worrying, I guess. They're doing their job, but obviously the code is there for a reason. But it is very, very strange, isn't it, that Sainsbury's get voted 97% compliance, and yet all of a sudden there's a problem.
And what do you think we'll see from Sainsbury's? Yes, they're hunkering down. They're trying to make sure they're absolutely watertight. They're probably not in some places. They're going to have a chat with Mark. What else is going to happen? Suppliers, range reset, do you think?
I don't think it will stop Sainsbury's in what they're doing. I think the language will be a lot more careful. I'm sure the legal team will be working overtime with the commercial department, but I don't think it will change. It's business. But it is interesting, isn't it, that I'm just trying to find the figure here. I think only 6% in the Grocery Code Survey. I think only 6% of suppliers said they had a problem with any of the named retailers. The lowest since the survey's been done. And the only issue that had increased was payments for better positioning of products,
right? Okay.
Which sort of speaks to range reset, actually.
Yeah.
So, no, interesting. It's going to be interesting to watch it over the next few weeks and months. What happens? Because obviously, Mark's 6 months in.
Yeah.
Past his classic 100 days. If I was him, I'd be wanting to make a bit of a mark for myself.
Mark making a mark.
Mark making a mark. Yes, see what you did there. Yes, is this his opportunity?
So let's step back. What do you think is happening to our industry? Are we getting more regulated? We're becoming more compliant. We're accepting this stuff, although it's taken us 10 years for it to come in and the code to become effective. What do you think is happening and going to happen?
Well, I think this is, we've talked about it in previous episodes, though. We're moving into a new normal. The supermarkets, for all their success during the pandemic, are now having to live with the reverse of that.
Yeah.
So, they're having to live with, last year's massive sales peaks. And even though we've got the football coming up and they'll sell a lot of beer this weekend, I don't think that's going to make up for, a whole nation being locked down and ordering, basically only having the grocers to shop in. So quite naturally, they're commercial beasts. They make, as we've said before, very, very, in the face of it, very, very low profits, 2p in the pound, typically. They're having to work with their suppliers. I think that's the phrase to use, work with their suppliers to, move themselves on commercially. So, on the flip of that, you've got suppliers who've equally been impacted by the pandemic. Yep. They may have seen very healthy volumes as the retailers did, but massive costs to keep going during the pandemic. Brexit costs, labour problems, as we talked about last week, a perfect storm of cost increases. And so you've got those two immovable objects coming together. Retailers needing more money this side, and suppliers needing cost price increases this side. It's going to be tension, and that's probably what Mark has been picking up.
Do you think we will see more backlash, more investigation, more suppliers reporting on supermarkets of their practices over the last year as they've had to wrestle with the pandemic and deal with stuff at speed?
Yeah, I think it's a bit like my politics analogy in reverse that we started with, is everybody hunkered down, be it suppliers or retailers, and they kept the nation fed, and fair play to them. Now, obviously, we're getting back to some semblance of normality. People are looking to leverage an advantage, improve their position, whatever phrase you want to use. And so I think there will be more noise around this. I think you look at that survey and say that, whether it's Sainsbury's or Co-op or Aldi, 90+% compliance with the code is pretty good. I think the very lowest Iceland was 90%.
Right.
So that's that's from the supplier's own mouths. It's a completely confidential survey, so they've got nothing to worry about. And so the suppliers are saying the supermarkets are incredibly compliant. So I think it's round the edges. There's always going to be, if you have a range reset, there's going to be losers. Those losers may feel, rightly or wrongly, that they've lost out as a result of some regulatory mishap. I'd be surprised if it becomes a big major news item. I think it's the noise caused by the natural friction of negotiation. That's quite a good phrase.
Oh, right, that's a good phrase. All right, one last question for you, Andrew. Thinking about the survey, how many supply agreements are there in place now? Because it was running around 1 in 2. What is it now?
Yeah, I don't know if you've got ahead of me on this press release, because it is only a press release rather than the full details of the survey. Right. I don't think it's mentioned in there. Obviously, for us, the interesting thing that we always look at is what percentage of suppliers said they've had training on the code, because it was less than half just less than half to my memory. That will be in the main body of the survey when it's published. This was just a press release yesterday.
Okay.
So maybe we come back in a couple of weeks' time.
We'll come back to that. You're right. We'll come back on 2 things. What percentage of suppliers have written supply agreements? That's absolutely critical for them, because then you get more adherence to the code. And the second part is how many have had training, how many understand it. While suppliers aren't bound by the code, we would like to help suppliers to understand it so that they can help their buyers and supermarkets.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Okay, Andrew, just before we go, what's your final takeaway for our viewers out there?
I think it's, if what we've been talking about for the last 10 minutes, Grocery Code Adjudicator and GSCOP, has been what on earth are they talking about? And you're a supplier, find out, because it is, the Groceries Code is a very genuine piece of protection for suppliers, but it's not automatic, if that makes sense. It's only if suppliers uphold their rights do they get those rights. If they, either through ignorance or whatever, don't know what GSCOP is, then they won't be protected.
Very true. Andrew, you enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you for your guruing, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Take care.